Hello everyone, welcome to this week's GT7 Daily Race C Race and Strategy Guide from Suzuka International Raceway in Japan, and we're in the Group 3 cars for this one. Decent enough settings for this. At last they've actually done something more than just ×1 tyres and fuel. We've got 10 laps to get around. Tyre wear is at ×5, fuel is pretty high at ×6, and the refuelling rate is 10 litres per second, which I think is kind of important for this one. It's just got the racing medium tyres available. There's no rain, so you don't need to worry about the wet tyres. There's no mandatory rules in terms of tyres or pit stops. BOP is on, damage is light. It's a formation start and slipstream is real. Now, we are a day late to the party with this video, so I suspect if you've been watching anybody's streams or any advice you've been getting this week, you're getting told that this is a no stop in the Subaru BRZ GT300. Now, I'm not saying that's not the way to go in this one. However, in my point of view, not all drivers are equal, and when it comes to extreme fuel saving and getting a lap time, the top players are just significantly better than that compared to the not so top players. And I actually think the one-stop strategy in the Corvette, or maybe even like the Genesis or another very, very quick car in time trial, is absolutely viable for a lot of players out there. But so before we get to doing a comparison, we're going to do a one-stop strategy in the Corvette versus the no-stop strategy in the Subaru BRZ. Let's take a look at the pit loss, because it's kind of important to the kind of the strategy and the analysis that we're about to do here. So when you enter the pits in Suzuka, do be careful of the wall on the right hand side. You can catch that and embarrass yourself a little bit. It is a fairly long pit loss, 17.7 seconds just for the tyres. If you then take some fuel on, we're going to add 2 seconds for the fuel animation and then 1 second per 10% of fuel. So for example, the Corvette gets about 7 laps driven flat out. You're going to have to put in about 30% worth of fuel. That's going to be about 3 seconds. So all in all, you're looking at about a 22.7 second loss for the Corvette in the pits, which, yes, is a very, very big chunk of time. But given the tyre wear on the mediums, even on the BRZ, and the time loss you're going to get through that, and the time you're going to lose through the fuel saving, particularly if you're not very good at fuel saving, a lot of drivers do struggle to get the lap time out while fuel saving, and we're going to see when I do my run in the BRZ that I'm struggling big time with it as well. I think you need to consider the one stop if you're really struggling with the no stop. So with that said, let's move into the Corvette and take a look at our one stop no fuel saving run, and see what sort of lap times we're doing, see what kind of finishing time we are doing, and yeah, then we'll compare it to the Subaru BRZ. So as I said, in the Corvette you will get around about 7 laps worth of fuel when you drive flat out. Now, you of course can save a little bit of fuel if you want, just to minimise that pit stop, but because the sort of refueling is at 10 litres per second, and the fact you're taking fuel on, you know, if you put in 10% more, you basically, it costs you 1 second more, and it will give you that safety net to just push harder at the end of the race. So yeah, you know, consider fuel saving. Saving 1 second in the pits is always going to be handy, but it's not definitely going to be the end of your race if you just decide to go absolutely flat out and just fill up what you need. So stint number 1 coming to the end here. Lap number 5, of course, if you're going to change the tyres, lap number 5 is the optimal point. Get the maximum tyre performance for the longest duration in the course of the race, and it was a fairly solid first stint. Now, one thing I do want to point out, in a custom race the refueling rate is only 3 litres per second. Now, we were stationary for nearly 20 seconds. Had that been in sport mode, we'd only been stationary for about 9 seconds. So I am going to adjust that at the end of the race when it comes to the finishing time, because I have checked out in sport mode, and it's absolutely the case that, you know, you'd be about 10 to 11 seconds quicker in the pits than we were in this run here. We're coming to the end of stint number 2. It was a fairly solid second stint, to be fair. All in the 59s. No fuel concerns in the Corvette. We overfueled a little bit. Coming across the finishing line to finish. A bit of a slow lap to finish, but the adjusted finishing time for this was 20 minutes 19.5 seconds. So in the Corvette, one stop, no fuel saving, 20 minutes and 19.5 seconds. So let's now jump into the BRZ, and we shall do a no stop run. Now, I do have to confess that this is my first attempt at it. I'd done I crashed on my first run, so I had maybe about 3 or 4 laps under my belt driving the BRZ and kind of getting used to the fuel saving. But the first thing I did notice is that the fuel saving is not particularly easy in this car. It's not just a case of short shifting your way to 10 laps worth of fuel. You're going to have to do some lifting and coasting, or I certainly was doing some lifting and coasting, and you're going to have to start playing with the fuel maps. Now there will be people out there who will give you good solid advice on how to use the fuel maps as you circulate a lap here, but I'm never a big fan myself of using the fuel maps, and if I can avoid using them and just short shift and lift and coast, I will usually go down that route. And as I said, you know, fuel saving is a difficult skill. You will get better at it the more you do it, but not everybody ever gets to that point where they can kind of, you know, make this strategy work. And I think that's why you're going to see here we come to the end of our no stop run in the BRZ. We're in the 201s initially, then into the 202s, and then dropping into the 203s as we kind of had to start saving a little bit more fuel each lap to try and get the car to the end. On top of that, the tyre wear is fairly significant. The car's easy enough to drive even with the tyre wear, but it's certainly costing you lap time. And you can see we were doing 159s in the second stint. The last 4 laps in the Corvette, 159s, and we are doing 203s and 204s. 204 was a bad lap to be fair, but 203s in the BRZ were 4 seconds a lap slower. That's fairly significant. Finishing time for that no-stop run was a 20 minutes 27.5, actually 8 and a bit seconds slower than the Corvette. Now, could we, with a bit of practice, start getting that no-stop time down? Absolutely. There was definitely more time on the table. As I said, that was my first run doing the no-stop, but am I going to find 8 seconds? I'm not 100% convinced. And that's why I'm kind of in a little bit of a quandary, because as I said, a lot of people out there are recommending, or they're just saying, it's a no-stop in the BRZ, it's a no-stop in the BRZ. I think for a lot of drivers below A+, the one stop is a better strategy for you. You've got the safety net of good tyres, you don't have the worry of fuel saving, and as I've hopefully demonstrated here, you are significantly faster over a lap. Now, we have ran both the strategies here in optimal conditions. You're going to run into issues in both strategies. If you do the one stop, you're almost certainly going to have to start overtaking cars. That's going to cost you time, it can get messy. But if you are doing a no stop and you've got a lot of one stoppers on your race, you're going to have people coming through and overtaking you. Again, it can get messy. So in optimal conditions, I reckon the one stops maybe have got 2 or 3 seconds over the no stop. Is that enough for you to then go for it? Yeah, I think this is an interesting one. I think both strategies are viable for a lot of players. In the top splits, absolutely. They're going to just go in the BRZ. They're going to no-stop, and the vast majority of the drivers in that race are going to be doing the same strategies. They're not going to really have to worry about some hooligan like I did here coming through doing the one stop. So this was a race that I jumped into in the Corvette, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to start messing people up by doing the one stop and overtaking them at the beginning of the race. And I had an absolute blast just driving past BRZ's fuel saving down the straights in my Corvette for the first half of this race. And you're going to see in the second half of this race that it actually started to work out for me, because I had fresh tyres, I was able to make overtakes, I wasn't having to worry about fuel. Lots of drivers around me were worrying about fuel, their tyres were gone, people were crashing, and we're going to actually get a fairly solid result using what a lot of people say is the wrong strategy in a very, very tough lobby. So we're up to P9 at the moment, moving up to P8 as that BMW recovers, because that is another thing about Suzuka. It's a very, very dangerous track. You know, there's plenty of corners where you're going to get caught out. Once those tyres start going as well in that BRZ, as I said, the car's easy enough to drive, but, you know, the car is changing every lap. There is a significant chance of spinning or catching a curb on the outside of somewhere like Spoon. You can see even the best drivers here. This was Aura, who had had an accident into Degner 2, overtaking him up into P5. We made our pit stop at the end of lap 5, and then as we kind of came down to start lap 7, we actually had 2 cars emerge from the pits right in front of us, which kind of put a little bit of a damper on our strategy. Just a little bit, because we should have been going solidly into the 59s at this point, but we were kind of getting held up. But yeah, we were starting to pass no stoppers, a BRZ there with no tyres going off at 130R. We blasted past this Beetle once again. I think this was the second time we just blasted past this no stopping fuel saving Beetle. We've got Cartman there in the Mercedes. His tyres were absolutely shot. Dimitri, even though he'd made the pit stop, just because you get fresh tyres, you're not immune to the dangers of Suzuka. You're not off the track there. He was very, very kind into the hairpin. He actually backed off, realising he had dirt on the tyres. Another BRZ is off the track with those worn tyres. and they've got no fuel, so we blast right around the outside of them without any issue. The BRZ is actually very slow down the straight at the best of times, and we made up one final place with another BRZ, I'm going to assume with no tyres, catching the grass at the exit of turn 2, and that was us up into P8. And to be fair, we were never beating at least 5 or 6 of the drivers ahead of us. Absolute top tier drivers. You had Zavicic, Wind, Aura. Yeah, we were never catching these drivers, regardless of what car we're in, what strategy. So I think P8, the wrong strategy, as a lot of people would say, is a very, very solid result. And as I said, please consider it if you're struggling with the no-stop. Don't just take, you know, because everybody's saying, oh, the BRZ and the no-stop is the way to go. Fuel saving is not for everyone. A lot of people find it very difficult and can't get the speed out of the car. I'm struggling with it at the moment. Absolutely no two doubts about it. Will you get better at it with a little bit of practice? Absolutely, but yeah, I think in the lower splits, the one-stop strategy might well be the way to go. Well, I think that's enough blabbering on about strategy. Well done if you've made it to this point. Let's finish off the video with a lap guide in the Corvette, heading down to turn number 1. You're looking for the 50 metre board, the little path just before it is your reference point. Around about 50% braking into turn 1, very, very dangerous corner at Suzuka. Get it down into maybe 3rd or 4th gear to get a little bit of rotation, and then through the S's we come. This is just all about momentum, getting the front of the car in and getting the line absolutely spot on. If you kind of get one of these corners wrong, you kind of just end up at a sink for the rest of them, and it's very, very hard to recover. Get the car over to the right hand side of the track for a Dunlop curve, very dangerous part of the track as well. Very easy to put a tyre on the grass or the gravel on the right hand side, and away you will be. Degner 1 just before the 50 metre board. Give the kerb on the inside a healthy bit of respect. End of the kerb on the left hand side, reference point for breaking into Degner number 2. You can be a lot more aggressive with the kerb there. Come up to the hairpin, you've got the kerb on the right hand side, just towards the end of the kerb is where you're looking to brake in a nice straight line. Get the car straightened up and get on the power as early as possible. Very important corner to get on the power, as you've got the uphill, not quite a straight towards Spoon. Another very dangerous corner, Spoon. You're looking for the 50 metre board, I believe, and the little path on there just before the 50 metre board, the path on the right hand side. Give the outside kerb a healthy bit of respect because it can easily have you off the track. And then over the crest of the hill, the car will go light. It's very easy to hit the throttle. You see we get a little bit of an oversteer at the moment there, and spin off. You also get a little bit of understeer if you kind of accelerate too aggressively over the crest of the hill. 130R is a fairly decent lift in the Corvette. You can go much faster through there in the BRZ. And the 100 metre board, or the 100 metre board on the fence, is your braking reference for the Castiel Triangle. Healthy dose of kerbs, not quite as much as you can in GT Sport. And be careful on the throttle, on the exit. And yeah, that is actually a corner when you come out the Castiel Triangle as well. Do be very careful of trying to overtake a car on the outside. You probably will end off the track like Juan Pablo Montoya did in the F1 in maybe 2006 or something. But yeah, hopefully this video has been useful in some way, shape or form. Apologies it's a day late. I'm kind of stuck with the way that PD are doing things, and I am not very well. I did actually put another video together yesterday and it was just absolute garbage, so I decided to start once again. So yeah, hopefully it's been useful. If it has, hit the like button. Give me a subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. I'd appreciate it immensely. And I'll catch you on the next one.